I knew something was wrong the moment I stepped through my front door. A pair of expensive Italian leather Oxfords, shoes I'd never seen before, sat neatly by the entryway. My work boots felt suddenly heavy as I stood frozen, my duffel bag slipping from my shoulder to the floor with a muted thud. Then I heard it. The unmistakable sounds drifting down from upstairs, rhythmic creaking, soft moans, and a man's low laughter that wasn't mine. In that moment, 12 years of trust shattered like glass. My name is Ethan McAllister. I'm a 38-year-old construction foreman with calloused hands and a reputation for loyalty that had never been questioned, until now. I had just returned from a brutal 2-week job in Buffalo, pushing my crew through 14-hour days to finish ahead of schedule. I'd driven straight through the night to surprise Natalie, my wife of 12 years. Natalie and I met in college. She was studying interior design while I was getting my degree in construction management. We complemented each other perfectly. She had the vision, I had the skills to build it. After graduation, we settled in our hometown, a quiet suburb outside of Pittsburgh. I joined my father's construction company, eventually taking over as foreman when he retired. Natalie built a respectable clientele as a real estate agent at Heritage Properties, the most prestigious firm in the county. For our wedding, I surprised her by building our bed frame by hand. Quarter-sawn oak with hand-carved details that took me 6 months of evenings and weekends. She had cried when she saw it, running her fingers over the intricate patterns I'd carved just for her. "This is us," she had whispered. "Something built to last forever." Jake Simmons had been my best man at our wedding. We'd grown up next door to each other, shared the same kindergarten classroom, played on the same Little League teams. When his mom died of cancer our sophomore year of high school, he lived with my family for months. We were brothers in everything but blood. When he divorced 3 years ago, I was the one who helped him move into the house 4 doors down from ours. I'd vouched for him to join my crew. I'd invited him to every barbecue, every holiday. Trusted him with my home keys when we traveled. There had never been a time in my life when I hadn't trusted Jake and Natalie completely. Until now. I stood in my entryway, processing the evidence before me with an eerie calm. My hands didn't shake as I set down my keys and reached for my phone. The rational part of my brain, the part that planned complex construction projects and solved logistical nightmares, took over. I needed proof. Not for myself, I already knew, but for what would come after. Silently, I ascended the stairs I had reinforced last summer, avoiding the 3rd step that always creaked. The sounds from our bedroom grew louder, more frantic. I activated the video recording on my phone. The door was cracked open just enough. Through the gap, I filmed what no man should ever have to see. Jake Simmons, my lifelong friend, and my wife Natalie, naked and entwined on the bed I had crafted with my own hands. "God, I love you," Natalie moaned, words I thought belonged only to me. "When's the asshole coming back?" Jake grunted between thrusts. "Tomorrow night," she laughed. "We've got all day." Something cold and hard crystallized in my chest. I filmed for exactly 43 seconds, enough to capture their faces, their words, their betrayal in high-definition clarity. Then I stopped recording, saved the video, and sent a copy to my email for safekeeping. Only then did I kick the door open with enough force to crack the frame. What followed exists in my memory as a series of vivid, disconnected flashes. Jake's face, transitioning from ecstasy to shock to terror in the span of a heartbeat. Natalie's scream, my fist connecting with Jake's jaw with a sickening crunch. The spray of blood across our white duvet. Jake's pathetic attempt to fight back, my knee driving into his sternum, the sound of ribs cracking, more blood. Natalie shrieking, pulling at my shoulders, brushing her off like an insect. I wasn't a violent man. I'd been in exactly 3 fights in my life, all before the age of 20. But in those moments, I was something else entirely. Something cold and methodical and precise in my fury. When Jake stopped moving, I grabbed him by his hair, now matted with blood, and dragged his naked, semi-conscious body down the stairs. Each thump of his head against a step felt like justice. Natalie followed, wrapped in a sheet, screaming words I couldn't process. I pushed past the front door, dragging Jake's bloodied form across our manicured lawn to the mailbox. Mrs. Fenton across the street was watering her hydrangeas. She dropped her garden hose. Mr. Wu next door froze while retrieving his newspaper. Someone was already filming with their phone. I zip-tied Jake's wrists to the base of our mailbox post. From my work truck, I retrieved a can of bright orange spray paint we used for marking utility lines. Across Jake's chest and torso, I painted 2 words in large, unmistakable letters: homewrecker and coward. Only then did I address the small crowd that had gathered. "This man," I said, my voice unnaturally steady, "has been f***ing my wife in my bed for months. While I was working 80-hour weeks to provide for my family, he was destroying it." I held up my phone, showing the video I had captured minutes earlier. "Anyone want a copy? Post it wherever you want. I don't care anymore." Several neighbors stepped forward with their phones, and I calmly transmitted the video via AirDrop. Mrs. Fenton, a 60-year-old retired school teacher who had brought us a casserole when we first moved in, was the first to accept the transfer. The look of disgust on her face when she watched it told me everything I needed to know about whose side the neighborhood would take. When I turned back to our house, Natalie was standing on the porch, the sheet clutched around her, mascara running down her face. "Ethan, please," she begged. "Let me explain." I walked past her without a word, went upstairs, and packed a bag with mechanical efficiency. On my way out, I stopped in front of her. "I'll be back tomorrow with a police escort to collect the rest of my things," I said, my voice devoid of emotion. "Don't touch anything that's mine. And find somewhere else to sleep tonight, because if you're here when I return, what I did to him will look like a f***ing massage compared to what happens next." The look of terror in her eyes should have satisfied me. It didn't. Nothing would, I realized. Not yet. I checked into a hotel downtown and made 3 phone calls. The first was to my lawyer, Marcus Shapiro, who had handled my father's estate and our company's legal matters for 20 years. "Jesus Christ, Ethan," he said after I explained the situation. "Did anyone call the police about the assault?" "Probably," I admitted. "But he was in my house, in my bed, with my wife. I've got video evidence." Marcus sighed. "That might help with a crime of passion defense, but you can't just beat a man half to death and tie him to a mailbox. There will be consequences." "I don't care," I said. "Just tell me how to destroy them both legally." My second call was to my sister, Rachel. Unlike Marcus, she didn't lecture me about consequences. "I'm coming over," she said immediately. "Have you eaten anything?" "I'm not hungry." "I didn't ask if you were hungry. I asked if you'd eaten. I'm bringing food, and we're making a plan." My third call was to my crew supervisor, letting him know I'd be unavailable for a few days. I didn't offer details, but Tom's tone told me he already knew. News travels fast in small towns. "Take all the time you need, boss," he said. "The boys and I have got your back." Rachel arrived an hour later with containers of food I couldn't taste and a determination in her eyes that matched my own. "The video's already gone viral," she informed me, showing me her phone. "Someone posted it to Reddit and it's everywhere. People are calling you a hero for standing up to cheaters." I scrolled through comment after comment of support. Homecoming revenge was trending. My private humiliation had become public vindication. "I want them ruined," I told Rachel. "Not just embarrassed, destroyed." She nodded, her expression hardening. "Then let's get to work." The next week unfolded according to plan. Jake was hospitalized with 4 broken ribs, a shattered orbital socket, a broken jaw, and a concussion. When he was released, he returned home to find his house vandalized with the word cheater spray painted across his garage door. His car windows were smashed. Someone had mailed printouts of the bedroom video to his workplace. I filed for divorce immediately, citing adultery and including the video as evidence. Marcus advised me against pressing criminal charges against Jake for trespassing. It would complicate my defense if he pursued assault charges against me. But Jake never did. Perhaps he knew what public opinion would do to him if he tried to paint himself as a victim. Natalie attempted to call me 63 times in the first 3 days. I blocked her number. She sent emails begging for forgiveness, claiming it had been a mistake, a moment of weakness that turned into an addiction. I set up a filter to send her messages directly to a folder I never opened. Through mutual acquaintances, I learned she had been fired from Heritage Properties. Their morals clause was explicit, and the viral video had breached it spectacularly. No other real estate firm in the county would touch her. Jake fared no better. My construction company was one of the largest employers in town, and my father's connections ran deep. He couldn't find work within a 100-mile radius. His face, permanently asymmetrical from the beating, became instantly recognizable. People crossed the street to avoid him. I maintained my silence and focused on the next phase of my plan. 3 weeks after D-Day, Discovery Day as Rachel had labeled it, I filed a civil suit against Jake for alienation of affection, a rarely used but still valid tort in our state. Marcus was dubious about our chances, but I insisted. "It's not about winning," I explained. "It's about forcing him to hire an expensive lawyer he can't afford. It's about making him sweat through depositions where he has to explain in excruciating detail how long he's been my wife. It's about draining whatever resources he has left." The suit did exactly that. Jake had to liquidate his 401k to pay his legal fees. He put his house on the market, but no one wanted to buy the cheater house that had been all over the news. Eventually, he accepted an offer for 30% below market value. Meanwhile, my divorce proceedings moved forward with brutal efficiency. Natalie's lawyer, a young, overwhelmed public defender, was no match for Marcus. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s, watched the bedroom video with thinned lips and narrowed eyes. When Natalie's lawyer attempted to argue for an equitable distribution of assets, citing my excessive force against Jake, the judge shut him down. "Mrs. McAllister," she said, looking directly at Natalie, "I find your behavior reprehensible. You violated the sanctity of your marriage in your marital bed with your husband's closest friend. The court is not inclined to reward such conduct. The final divorce decree granted me the house, both vehicles, and all our joint savings. Natalie received her personal belongings and nothing more. She was also served with a restraining order preventing her from coming within 500 feet of me, my workplace, or my home." As we left the courthouse, Natalie attempted one last appeal to my humanity. "Ethan, please," she sobbed, her once immaculate appearance now haggard from weeks of stress. "Where am I supposed to go? How am I supposed to live?" I looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time since that day. The woman I had loved for 12 years, whose smile had once been my reason for working so hard, now seemed like a stranger. "You didn't just cheat on me," I said, my voice calm and deliberate. "You betrayed the man who would have died for you. You lit the match. I just made sure the whole house burned down." I walked away without looking back. Rachel, waiting by my truck, gave me a nod of approval. "It's done," I told her, "but I don't feel anything." "That'll come later," she promised. "Right now, we focus on rebuilding." 6 months passed. I sold our house, couldn't stand to sleep in that bedroom again, and bought a newer, larger place on the lake. I threw myself into work, taking on bigger projects and expanding the company into commercial construction. I started training for a marathon, running miles along the lakeshore each morning before dawn. Slowly, incrementally, I began to feel again. Not happiness exactly, but a kind of peace, a sense of justice served. Jake left town 3 months after the divorce was finalized. Last I heard, he was working construction in Idaho under a different name. his face still bearing the permanent reminder of his betrayal. The civil suit had been settled out of court, with Jake agreeing to pay me a nominal sum each month for the next decade. It wasn't about the money, it was about the monthly reminder of what he had done. Natalie's fall was more complex. Her parents, deeply religious people who had always adored me, cut her off completely. No one would hire her in real estate. She tried waiting tables at a diner 2 towns over, but customers recognized her from the video and harassed her until she quit. Her social media accounts became digital graveyards of desperate apologies and bitter accusations. Last Rachel heard, she was living with a cousin in Philadelphia, working night shifts at a gas station, her once perfect appearance diminished by stress and poverty. Sometimes I felt a twinge of guilt about the extent of her suffering. But then I would remember her words on that video. "When's the asshole coming back?" And the guilt would evaporate like morning dew under a harsh sun. 1 year after D-Day, Rachel convinced me to attend a fundraiser for the local children's hospital. She had been trying to get me to socialize again for months, concerned that my self-imposed isolation was becoming unhealthy. "You've punished them," she argued. "Don't let them punish you too." At the event, I met Olivia Chen, a pediatric surgeon with quick wit and zero patience for small talk. When someone attempted to introduce us by mentioning the video, she shut them down immediately. "I'm sure Ethan has more interesting aspects to his personality than being cheated on," she said, then turned to me. "Tell me about the lake house you're renovating instead." We talked about architecture and construction for 2 hours. She didn't once ask about Natalie or Jake or the viral video that had defined the past year of my life. When I asked for her number at the end of the night, she gave me a considering look. "I should warn you," she said. "I have trust issues." For the first time in a year, I laughed. Really laughed. That makes 2 of us. Our first date was a kayaking trip on the lake. Our second was helping her move furniture into her new condo. By the 3rd month, I had given her a key to my house, but with a clear understanding. We both needed transparency. We both needed boundaries. We both needed to move slowly. 2 years after D-Day, I received a letter forwarded through Marcus's office. I recognized Natalie's handwriting immediately and nearly threw it away unopened. But something, curiosity perhaps, or a need for final closure, made me read it. "Ethan, I won't ask for forgiveness. I don't deserve it, and you've made it abundantly clear you have none to give. I'm writing to say you won, completely and utterly. My life is unrecognizable from what it once was. I work 2 minimum wage jobs. I live in a studio apartment with water damage and roaches. My family still won't speak to me. When men recognize me, and they do even now, they assume I'm available for the same thing I did to you. I saw online that you're with someone new. She looks kind and accomplished. I hope she gives you what I couldn't. I hope you trust again someday. I've started therapy. Too late to save anything, but maybe not too late to understand why I destroyed the best thing in my life. My therapist suggested writing this letter might help with my healing process. I doubt you care about my healing, but I'm sending it anyway. You were right that day at the courthouse. I lit the match. You made sure everything burned. There's nothing left now but ashes. I'll always be sorry, Natalie. I folded the letter carefully and placed it in my desk drawer. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. That evening, as Olivia and I sat on my deck watching the sunset over the lake, she asked me a question that had been hovering between us for months. "Do you regret how far you took it? The revenge?" I considered my answer carefully. The revenge wasn't just about punishment. It was about justice, yes, but also about rebuilding. I couldn't rebuild with those ruins still standing. I needed to clear the ground completely. She nodded, her hand finding mine. "And now?" "Now I'm building something new," I said, squeezing her fingers gently. "Something stronger. Something with eyes wide open." We sat in comfortable silence as darkness fell over the water. In the reflection of the first evening stars, I could almost see the blueprint of a future I hadn't believed possible 2 years ago. Not perfect, not unmarked by the past, but solid, enduring, built to last. And so, we've reached the end of today's story. Was it what you expected, or did it take a twist you didn't see coming? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below, and let's get a conversation going. If this story kept you hooked, make sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here or just haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to join our community. I bring you fresh, captivating stories every day, so click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.